teaching and coaching total, so I've been around for a while, and I've enjoyed talking to Mr. Pacharu about a little bit about India and how the classes work for him, and I think he told me he teaches English, so he's not in the PE side of it, but I hope that this will come a little handy. Today in class we're going to be doing, it's called a paper plate abdominal workout, which will be new for the girls to try for the first time, and then we're going to be playing team handball today.
Her PE class right now, and she's training the girls in this gym. You can see the girls are doing some warm-up exercises now.
Remember, 5 seconds and you go down and relax, and then you'll do it again. Everybody's on your own. You don't have to do it at the same time. You follow your own.
So this is a gym, part of a public school. You can understand the structure of a school system in America. So every school has this sort of gym, which is completely equipped with all modern equipments. It looks like she is giving some instructions. Are taking the paper plates. I think that the PE teacher is going to make the students some activity using the paper plates.
Who cares what people think of you? You can do it in your bed. Whatever. It's just something unique and different, because just doing regular sit-ups that we do when we practice and our crunches that we do, sometimes you get bored and you just want something different. Okay? Other things that will work are, they have something called
Yourself first.
Okay, I'm Sally Jameson and I work at George Junior High School. I'm a science teacher. 8th grade pre-AP physical science and 9th grade physical science.
So would you mind briefly explaining about the topics that you teach for your students?
Okay, I teach physical science is what we call it. In the first semester we teach physics, and so that's going to have to do with Newton's laws and other things that the kids can see and actually have hands-on experiments with. And then we teach chemistry for the second semester. And I do a lot more labs in physics than I do in chemistry because we have a lot of legal issues that we have to deal with. And our kids are 8th and 9th grade, and so their maturity level is maybe not right where it needs to be in order for us to do some chemical experiments. I used to do more than I do now, but because of incidences, I'm like, no, I think I'll not do as many. So I still do some occasionally, but some labs. We do have labs that are attached to each of our rooms so that we can transition into there when it is time to do labs. Physics, I do lots of labs. I try to do labs about once a week because they're safe labs and they're things that the kids can see and they can manipulate and they can test for different variables and be able to come to their own conclusions. It's really good because they need to know that scientific process of thinking and discovering. When it comes to chemistry, since I don't do so many labs, I try to make things more hands-on, and so they're using model atoms. We order supplies that help us to make it visual for the kids. So we have atoms that have little subatomic particles that they can put into the proper locations on the energy levels and whatnot for their Bohr models. I try to make manipulatives, so when I'm doing like the periodic table and explaining the patterns on the periodic table, I try to give them something that's similar but not really the periodic table, and so I lay out a kind of pattern for them that needs to be completed, and then they have cards and they have to place the cards on the right squares, and then they have to discover the patterns in order to know where to put the cards themselves, kind of like Dmitri Mendeleev did to put the periodic table together. And let's see what else.
Could you please tell us how you plan your lessons? Do you have the lesson plans? You work with your partner teacher, or how do you do that?
In terms of me personally, I do my own lesson plans, and I used to do really thorough lesson plans, but recently we've been all right to just send in our websites. I make a website. And so I make a website, and that's where the objective is, and that's where the activities are, and that's where all of the documents and the Google Forms and everything that they need are basically on the computer. I also hand out the worksheets as well. But yeah, the lesson plans are basically what the kids are seeing and doing and actively participating in. And that's really the extent of what it is now. It didn't used to be that way. It used to be that I had to write up a whole huge document and make sure I'm dotting all my I's and crossing all my T's so that I can.
So using the electronic equipments in the classroom, that you have a Chromebook and many other items. So do you think that students are able to understand the abstract concept like chemistry and physical sciences?
Okay, it is harder on the computer. So when we get to chemistry, I definitely have them do a lot of things on paper. Like I'm doing much more worksheets because they have to draw. They have to visualize things, and it's too difficult to do all this on the computer. So what I can do on the computer, I do. The computer really just makes it easy for me to grade stuff. So sometimes I'll even give them the worksheet. They have to work it all out, and then I'll ask them questions about their worksheet. And they use their worksheet to answer the questions, but they put it on the computer. And then I can easily grade it. And it makes it so I don't have to go through a bunch of papers. Since COVID hit, we really tried to go paperless because we were trying not to touch everything that everybody, and so we did a lot of paperless last year, and I'm finding myself going back to paper this year because you need that. The kids need that a lot. So yeah, I kind of do both. but everything is always on the computer and available to them in case they have to be quarantined, they have to be out of school. Everything is made available to them on my website so that they don't have any excuse for not doing their work.
So what are your final suggestions to the teachers who wants to become science teachers in the future?
My final what for the teachers?
So what are your suggestions to the teachers who wants to take the science as their career, science as their teaching career?
I would just say you want to make sure that you're incorporating labs for kids. They need to go through the process of discovery. They need to know what science is, and science is not just knowledge. Science is a process of discovering knowledge. And so they need to do that as much as you can possibly help them do that. And there are certainly limitations to what we can do with that, but as much as you're capable of getting them to do science and not just learn science, that would be good.
So in Indian context, we are not equipped with the digital technology, Chromebooks and many other things. So what would you recommend to some of the teachers working in my school to follow in order to teach the science subject effectively?
Effectively?
Yeah.
Well, my favorite thing for teaching science, I'm going to try to do more of it next year, has been ADI. The computer, I tell you, the computers are not necessary. I mean, I taught great science stuff before these computers came. The computers make things convenient, but you don't need computers to do science. I mean, we've done science for years without them. So I guess it just goes back to trying to get the kids involved in that process of scientific thinking, getting them to ask their own questions about the world, getting them to investigate and set up their own investigations about the world. That's always really good. If they can try to go ahead and write out their procedures and then follow their procedures, then they're starting to see, oh, I need to be more detailed, I need to do this, I need to change this, and they're going to make mistakes, but that's how we learn from them, is by making those mistakes. So that also can be tricky, but you have to approve everything before they do it and make sure it's safe and they're following safety protocol. But yeah, that's been my best. When I've been doing that, and that was a couple of years ago before COVID, I had done that where I was able to really get them to do the planning of their investigations, and that's where I felt like I was being my best as a teacher of science, was when they were doing that. So I'm trying to get myself back into that again now that we're loosening some things up and able to get back to real life.
Yeah. So the last question. So what syllabus do you follow? The syllabus on your own, or the syllabus prescribed by the State Board of Education?
So we have standards that are set by our state, and we follow those standards. But as a team, we have a PLC, which is a professional learning committee, and that means everybody who teaches physical science, we all get together and we discuss which of these standards are the most important for them to carry on to the next grade level. We make those standards power standards or promise standards, and we make sure that these kids are accomplishing their standards. If they do not accomplish those very select standards, it doesn't mean that we let the other ones go. We try to incorporate the other ones as well, but the most important ones we want to make sure everybody gets. And so if they don't get it, then we intervene and we try to get them to understand it. Just last week we were doing power advisory for science. And so I was one of the teachers and there was another teacher. We took the kids who struggled and we re-taught the concept that was essential for them to continue on in our science. So that's kind of how we go about it. We just we take the state curriculum, or not curriculum, the standards, and then we decide as a team which ones are the most important, and we really focus on those as we're teaching through the standards. What's this? Right? You're going to be able to say that. If I say to you, if we were to take calcium, let's take calcium instead, and put calcium with chlorine, what would be produced?
CA.
Okay. That's actually not right. But I'll tell you in a second. What if I were to take sulfur and potassium and put them together? What would you get? All right, so I'm going to show you what you would get. Is that what you were predicting? No. All right, so that's why we need to make sure. First of all, we need to make sure that we know how many atoms of everything are represented in this formula. And there's no reason because it's already there. You already have the symbol, so you know that there must be one, right? Because otherwise, if there was none, why would we put the symbol? Right? So we don't write ones in chemistry. Oftentimes, we just don't write them because it's not necessary. So we know that when there's no subscript, then there's only one atom. So if I say how many atoms of Ca there are there, you'd say 1. How many atoms of Cl? You would tell me 2. Now, what if, let me find one. What if I did this? What if I put a coefficient in front of this?
It'd be 3 Ca and 6 Cl.
How do you know that?
Because you like multiply. You do the subscript first.
So you have 1. And then what?
You multiply it.
Okay, so this 3 basically tells you that there are 3 of these. That's what it says. There's 3 of these. So if you were to just kind of just sketch it out, let's say we got Ca, and that's attached to a Cl, and another Cl. If there's 3 of these, how many total Cas must you have?